Okay, so ECE 109, Social and Emotional Development. We're on Chapter 15 this week of week 2 of our course. Just a few announcements real quick. I've been grading the discussion board, and I just want to bring up again that if you will post your initial post before Wednesday at midnight, that's the best time to post to get maximum points on your discussion board. So be sure and do that. Also, the video response assignments, I've been keeping an eye on those. The video responses are actually a video that's made, I believe by the publisher of the textbook. And kind of the thing about those videos is that I cannot embed them directly into the course. So that's why you just see under the video section of each week, you're just sort of seeing the name of the video, but you're not seeing the picture. So I just want to be sure that everybody knows that those are the videos that you need to use for your responses. I've had quite a few that seem to be skipping that assignment. So I wanted to ask, is anybody else having problems viewing them? Have you tried to pull them up and they wouldn't come up for you? Are there any issues for you guys? No problem? Okay, good, good. You should just be able to click on it. It redirects you to the site with the small video box, and I know you've noticed that they're pretty small. It's usually a short video. And after you've watched it, if you will just put the back browser on your internet browser, the back arrow, it will take you back to the course page. I know that's one thing that can be confusing about it. So be sure and do those because those are worth 100 points each, and they want you getting your full points. Awesome. So let's just hop right into Chapter 15 since this is emotional and social development. Tonight we're going to talk about social behaviors with children. And I want us just to take a minute real quick to brainstorm. Think about what behaviors do you like to see in young children, and this could be children, toddler up to 7 or 8 years old. What type of behaviors do you want to see for them waiting in line at a store? I want you to think of waiting in line maybe at Walmart or Target or somewhere. Maybe you're behind someone that has a child that's about in that age group. So tell me some of the things that you'd like to see socially in this child. I've written down one example already. It says be quiet. You generally don't want them screaming at the top of their lungs, right? But what's something else that we want to see? Give me some ideas, guys. And I'll see if I can get this to actually type up on the screen real quick. Oh, yes. Behaving. No mess with items. Keep hands to self. Yes. Are these all things that you maybe encountered at one time or another? No whining. I like that one. That's kind of a big one to me. I had a little brother that was kind of a whiner, and he was a little spoiled. So he would whine until he got a toy at the checkout aisle. And at first they thought it was kind of cute. And that behavior just continued for him. So it really wasn't a good thing to start. I swear even he's 30 and he's still whining. Being nice to others, yes. Okay, so great. So these are a few things that we expect out of children. We want them to behave well socially, right? So on our next screen then, let's look at adults waiting in line at the store. And here we've got adults. I don't know, they look like they're at Best Buy or something like that, maybe. Being respectful, yes. Being respectful of others. Yes, exactly. Don't yell at other children or adults. Yes. I said no yelling in general, right? Patience. That's a good one, Stephanie. You know, that's a pretty big one for adults to demonstrate for children in a store. And I think it's really important. I've seen adults that have complained, you know, this needs to move faster and they're being too slow, things like that. And children are always catching and picking up on that. So being patient is going to help teach them patience as well. Be respectful, no argument. A little bit about personal space. You need to keep your personal space. We would expect from an adult. From a child, you might expect them to maybe get closer to somebody than, you know, an adult normally would. But when you have an adult getting in your personal space in the line, it can get kind of creepy, kind of uncomfortable. So you may notice then, as we go between the two lists, being quiet isn't necessarily on the adults list, right? Behaving is no whining because we expect adults to be past this, right? Being nice to others. Sometimes we are nice to each other. We need to be. Don't mess with the items and keep your hands to yourself. So I think it's kind of interesting to see that there's some things that we expect from children, and there's some things we expect from adults. One thing that didn't come up with children was don't talk to strangers. That's something that a lot of parents want to instill in their children. Other parents are fine with their children talking to strangers. But with an adult, it's almost more polite if you do have a little conversation with the person by you. So we have some things that are better for children. We have some things that are better for adults. So we look at both of the lists. What are the links between our expectations for children and our expectations for adults? Mostly being polite, we want out of both. Being respectful, we want out of both. And that covers a wide range of things, but I think it's just mainly important socially that we're aware as adults that we are, even though we're just standing in line in the store, that we are being role models for our children. So as an adult, if we're yelling and screaming in a store, the child is going to think that's appropriate as well. If the adult is not being patient, exactly patience again, if the adult is not being patient, then that is also what the child is learning. So we always have to keep in mind, no matter what we're doing, that little eyes are watching us, even if they're not our own. Okay, so if we look at now socially, if we look at misbehavior, this is probably one of the hardest things that we have to handle as parents, as aunts, as uncles, as caregivers. There's so many different situations. Maybe you work in a church nursery, any place that you're around kids. As an adult, you sort of take on that role of being responsible for helping them behave properly. So if we look at misbehavior, look at Dreiger's list of underlying goals. This is a great kind of eye-opener on why kids misbehave. one of the top reasons is attention. It's not that they're wanting to be bad or that's their goal is to get in trouble. They're just needing some attention, and a little attention will go a long way. In the special ed classroom, they would often talk about children misbehaving that maybe didn't have the attention at home. So at school, misbehaving got them some attention, and it was the idea that the song being paid attention is better than no attention at all. So even though it wasn't positive attention, at least they were getting some. So it's important to give out that attention when you see it's needed. Another underlying cause is power. So they're trying to exert their power over you. Think about the terrible twos. Oh my. They're not always terrible. Sometimes they are. So during the terrible twos, that's when children are starting to exert a little power. Maybe they're testing their boundaries. And it's important for you as an adult to limit that power a little bit and help them establish their boundaries so that they know how to behave. Another goal is revenge. So maybe if you look at this picture, for example, right here, see if I can get my pointer. You look at this picture here of the little boy and the little girl. This gives this actually addresses a lot of these different things. Look at attention first. Can you imagine the scenario where maybe sister's getting a little more attention than little brother? So to get the attention back to him, he's pulling her hair. So he's trying to get attention. Or maybe sister's telling him what to do, and he's needing to exert his power. Or, going down the list, revenge. She did something ornery earlier. Maybe she accidentally broke one of his toys and he's angry. And he is getting his revenge on sister. And the last reason is inadequacy. He's feeling like maybe he's lesser than. That sister thinks she's better, or that he didn't do something as well as she did. Maybe they're playing softball together. She's a little bit better. So can you see how each of these areas can be the underlying goal or the underlying cause of this behavior? And sometimes we just don't stop to think about it. What we see is just the misbehavior. So one cannot change a child's misbehavior without analyzing and understanding the goals that motivate the behavior. I think that's very interesting. A lot of times we don't feel like we have enough time to do that. We do a knee-jerk reaction to a misbehavior. When sometimes if we'll just stop and think about it and look at the situation, we can figure out what's going on. According to Gordon's teacher effectiveness training, here's a few ideas on how we can help avoid some problems by simply using these 3 techniques. Using active listening, using I messages, and using you messages. And we see this a lot right now in child development centers. Active listening is really just kind of like what we saw in the video in week 1 of the lady that was interacting with the infant in the video response. So she was making direct eye contact with the infant. She was engaging with that infant. I'm not saying the infant was misbehaving, but you can model her behavior with a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old really easily. Active listening is normally involves getting down on their level, maybe squatting down so that you have good eye contact. If you're standing above them and looking down at them, you're in a position of power that can be intimidating. So you get down on the child's level, you make eye contact, and you really listen to what they have to say. Active listening in itself can really go a long way in helping solve a problem. The next you might use those. So you might say, I really like the way you help Susie pick up her blocks. So you are personalizing it, and you're saying, I really liked it. And when you use that term I in a teacher position, it gains a lot more power with the child, a lot more respect. The second one is a you message. You have been a great helper today, and then they are taking that to heart because you are speaking directly to them. You're not telling the whole class that they were great or that they've had a fantastic day. You're telling that child directly. Here's a few examples of iMessage sentence starters. Now this is a great thing to keep around at first when you're trying to get the hang of the iMessages. In fact, this might be a great thing to be on the wall in any type of center. iMessage sentence starters. I want you to pick up the blocks, please. I feel I would appreciate it if, I think, I need, I expect, I wish. The main thing here is that each of these generally start with I. I understand you to say, and you're reconnecting with them. You're sort of analyzing what they just said and saying it back to them. I thought you said, it was my understanding that, I guess I misheard, please. And that second to last, by saying I misheard, you're saying, I made a mistake. Would you please help me make it correct? Help me again. And the last one, I would like it very much if. So these are all great iMessages you send to a child. What can adults do? Adults can identify which behaviors are acceptable and which are not. And when problems arise, examine the situation and decide who owns the problem. I really like that term, who owns it. So what do you think we're saying there when I say decide who owns the problem? What might that be referring to? Give me an example. I'm making you guys think tonight. It's still raining here, by the way. I can hear it on my metal roof. I think this is very valuable. When problems arise, examine the situation and decide who owns the problem. What do you think? Maybe so. Stephanie, you're saying maybe jealousy is coming into the picture. Could be, and in which case it may not necessarily be one child. It could be two children. Oh, you're jealous about the rain. I'm sorry. I was trying to get into the situation there. So, yes, you are jealous. And it sounds like it's really coming down outside, too. Good, because my pig needed a bath. He really did. Not even getting cleaned off. So, when problems arise, in the situation, decide who owns the problem. I think the importance of this statement is that we're not automatically putting the blame on the child. We're not automatically putting the blame even on a behavior. We're taking a moment and we're saying, okay, what caused this? And was it my fault as a teacher? Was it a fault of how the room is arranged, perhaps? Maybe a change in the layout could help this. An example of that, I remember one of you guys talking about the layout of your classroom, and that I think it was bookcases were used to help slow down to keep children from running through the classroom, because that was an issue. So you guys changed how the bookcases were facing. I thought that was a really great idea. And also, then to examine the situation, it could actually be, okay, is it on the child? Are they really owning this? Is this their fault? And what can we do to solve it? So as the adult, we have to be the ones to think about it and think it through. Okay, a little bit about behavior management. Behavior management focuses on observable traits that can be noted and measured. And in most centers, we will have a way of writing down these observations. And if we write down enough details, when we actually have time to think about it, maybe we'll be able to solve the problem and see what's causing the behavior. Positive reinforcement is the most widely used application of behavior management. This is the #1 thing that is pushed to be used in most centers. We want to focus on the positives, try to decrease the negatives. Ignoring is also used to eliminate behaviors. I know a lot of people aren't okay with this one. However, I used it a lot with my children growing up. If they were exhibiting a behavior that I knew they were wanting to get a response from, maybe a negative response, I was perfectly fine with turning my back, with changing the subject, and really just ignoring whatever was going on to try to move away from it. Timeout is sort of a variant of ignoring, and we're going to talk about timeout here in just a minute too. Shaping is helping a child move toward the right behavior through successive approximation, and it's another form of behavior management, shaping. Sometimes we're trying to shape them to correct behavior. What approach to guidance should you use? To me, there's not a 100% method to use. We have to use a combination of several different things. It may depend on your values and expectations. Maybe even for the whole center, you have identified the approach that you want to use, or the approaches. You still have plural. You think about the philosophy of the program. You consider your aims and the expectations of the families that the children that you're caring for. So all of these things come into account, and you will choose the guidance approach that's best for your center or for you as a parent. And most of the time, I like this term right here, eclectic. You may have your own eclectic approach, which means sort of a mixture. You may have a mixture. So if we look at guidance as a term, and we look at discipline as a term, let me see if I can get this working again. I'm still learning how to use Blackboard Collaborate. Give me some ideas. What's the difference between guidance and discipline? First, let's do guidance. See if I can make that a little bit bigger so you can read it. Okay, let's use the term guidance. What comes to mind with that term? Give me some words that help describe guidance. Helping. No guidance, you're helping. Caring. What else, guys? What's some other terms that go with the term guidance? One term that was used just on the page before was shaping. What else? Katrina, Anita, Maria, are you guys still there? Stephanie? Yay! I'm making you think. I'm sorry. That's the goal. Oh, sorry. You know what? You're right. think of discipline as more of a negative or a positive? It's kind of like the difference between the terms boss and leader. As we've talked about in one of my other classes, the boss is kind of a thing of the past. Depends on how it's used, that's right. So discipline, in general, we kind of think of it as it could be negative, could be positive discipline. And it's more after the fact, isn't it? So they've gotten in trouble, and we're trying to correct things. Maybe correcting would be a term to use there. And it can be caring also. That's right. That's right. So the main thing I want you to think about is guidance is guiding, helping, caring, shaping. And guidance can be sometimes more of a forethought or the problem arises. Discipline is usually after. It could be negative or positive, but you're wanting to correct the behavior there, basically. So I want you to know the difference between those two terms, especially when you get to quiz time. Glad I got that working. So here's some guidance techniques. Well, this is really what we want to focus on. Child guidance. Using positive reinforcement. And, we want words. We want lots of good words. Of course, we can occasionally use treats such as candy. So really sort of moving away from that. Again, that's kind of a technique that's going more into the past because we don't want to just give them junk for being good. We want to give them good things and good words. So positive reinforcement. Stickers are still great. Attention can sometimes just be a guidance technique. And an example of this is if you are good all week in class and get your assignments done, then on Friday you'll get to have a special lunch with a teacher. Maybe you get to sit with a teacher at lunchtime. That's a way of giving attention. Another guidance technique is ignoring the behavior. Example, maybe you've got a child that's tapping a pencil on the table repeatedly, loudly, really just trying to get in trouble. Sometimes just ignoring them will make that go away. Using timeout, and here's a picture of a little boy or girl in timeout. I think that's a little girl. Now, I don't know if you've read up recently in the textbook or on the internet, but timeout is starting to get kind of a negative feel about it. They're saying that, when you put a child in timeout and on this little stool in the corner, that it's almost more of a shaming process. That we're shaming that child, we're wanting them to be quiet and sit there and think about it. But what's actually going through their head is sometimes, how am I going to get back in the future? Or how long do I have to sit here? That it can actually have kind of negative effects. So, and of course, we never want to do it for very long. An article that I read today said you can use the sense of timeout just by saying, okay, we need to be quiet for just a little bit, and we want to talk about this problem. And it actually had a time limit of 45 seconds on timeout for young children. So that's not very long. But it's kind of interesting because we went from spanking as one of the main forms of punishment back in the day, back in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And then we went to timeout was kind of a big thing in the 80s and 90s and part of the 2000s as well. And now the focus is more on things that they really want to do, things that might be taken away. For example, if you run in the school, you won't be able to go outside for recess. Maybe they love to go outside for recess. Or maybe a child that's not getting their work done, you could say, you have to get your work done before you get computer time. Maybe they love the computer. So it's about maybe taking privileges away until the behaviors trouble? What was the negative behavior? Maybe talk to them about how they could correct it, what's something they could do differently, because children learn so much more from that. So, some of that. Let's see. Why is it important to understand the reasons for a child's behavior? You tell me, just kind of as a little recap of what we just covered. Why is it important to understand the reasons for a child's misbehavior? What do you think? I'm going to make you think again. You guys just type it out in the chat box. Why is it important to understand the reasons for a child's misbehavior? Oh, I found a marker. And while you guys are thinking, I'm going to draw. Pretty horrible on you. I didn't know we had a marker. Oh, and here's the sunshine for you. What do you think, guys? It's important because you never know what's going on at home. Actually, that's true, Anita, and I hadn't thought of that. Why is it important to understand the reasons for a child's misbehavior? Great example, right? So maybe you have a child, to bring up something from this week's, I think, discussion board. Maybe you have a child that's going through a divorce at home. Parents are separating, and it's causing a lot of extra stress on the child, and that could very well be the reason that they are misbehaving at school. It's not that they're being a bad kid. We don't like that term. It's that they're reacting to what's going on in the home. Okay, maybe so we know what we need to do about the misbehavior. Exactly, too. Exactly. So how can we support this child that's going through a divorce? What's some of the things that we can do to consider? You know, one of the biggest things you can do is just giving them attention and giving a chance to talk about it if they can or if they need to. So, yes, children have lost grandparents and parents whenever I have been a substitute teacher, and I've seen that child's behavior decline before because they're so sad and they have no control of what's happening in their family. So you do the best you can to support them. Very good. So yes, we need to look not just at the behavior, but the reasons for the behavior. That's what we want to focus on. I'll stop drawing now. Okay. Ideas for dealing with aggression. This is never fun in the classroom. Always a difficult thing to handle. Aggression should never be acceptable. It should never be ignored. So this is one behavior that we can't just ignore. If we have a child that's hitting another kid, if we have a child that's throwing toys, furniture, that cannot be ignored. Prevention is through vigilance is very important, especially if you have a child that's prone to aggression and you can see they're building up to an explosion. And once you get to know the children, you can see the signs of what might be getting ready to happen. And usually what you can do with that child is just remove them from the environment or the situation that's building that aggression. Maybe go outside, go into another classroom. Whatever it takes to diffuse the situation. Work on acceptable behaviors all the time. So we're not just changing the situation, we're then talking about what we can do about it. So, oh, I see you're getting mad. Maybe we could talk about what's making you mad instead of you acting out. Again, it's using your words with the children, realizing that they learn more from us speaking to them than they do getting in trouble. That doesn't really teach them much. Provide children with positive attention. Again, the child going to have an aggressive episode. They just need a little bit of attention. Someone can sit down with them, read a book. Minimize environmental factors that may contribute to aggression. One thing that I think of immediately is in the cafeteria. I know we have certain children that just can't sit by each other. They may eventually get over their issues, but if we set two aggressive children by each other, we're asking for trouble. So sometimes environmentally we can change that. They can sit at different tables, and eventually they'll mature enough that this issue can be talked about more. So that is it for the night, guys. I think I've got everybody written down as being here. Faith, Anita, Katrina, Maria, and Stephanie. I'll be sure and get your point in the grade book. And do you have any questions? Over there? You're okay? All right. Faith's good. Anita's good. Maria, no questions. Yeah, Katrina, you okay? All right. Well, if there's no questions, you guys go on about your evening. We are done with live lecture for week 2. And I will see you next Tuesday at 8:30 for number 3. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.